this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at this bluesy ragtime composition that you can play solo guitar. You don't need a accompaniment, you don't need a jam track, all you need is a guitar and a pick. And you can do this with an acoustic or electric guitar. Now I'm going to show you how to play everything that I just played, note for note. We'll break it all down. I'll also give you the context behind the notes so that you can extend this and make this your own. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video we're going to take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half, as well as download the tablature for this and have access to the on-screen tab viewer, which is interactive, very cool way to learn, you can get all of that at ActiveMelody.com. Just look for EP189. So let's go ahead and get started with part one. Alright, so there's two big takeaways I want you to walk away from in this lesson. The first thing is I want you to understand all of these notes that we're about to learn and how they relate to chords, to the chords that we're playing, so that as you improvise and you write your own music, or you go to jam sessions or whatever, and you want to use this stuff, you can do that so that you can start to incorporate this into your own playing. And then you can take it in other directions. As you connect the dots and you understand where they come from, you'll be able to be a much better player. The second thing I want you to have is a little composition that you can play. So it has a beginning and has an ending, and it's something that you can play. So when somebody hands you a guitar and says, hey, can you play something, you have something that you can play. So all of these lessons have some kind of a goal in mind, some kind of composition that you can showcase everything that you're learning, kind of put it all together. So I wanted to start with that. Alright, so you may have noticed that I've switched guitars. I'm playing now, I'm going to demonstrate this on a Telecaster because I've got the fret markers and I think it'll make it easier to follow along. Plus I wanted you to see what this sounds like on electric. It works either way, and this guitar will be fine for demonstration purposes. So the way that this thing starts off, it starts off with just strumming through the chords. Kind of a ragtime chord thing, and it's got kind of a lazy shuffle. And so I've created a separate video on the strum patterns, and I've got all the strum strokes that are all listed out in the tablature, all the down strokes, all the up strokes, and the muted strums. So I'm not going to go into the detail in this video because I don't want to bog this down with this. I know some of you get rhythm and you don't want to go into that. Some of you want to go right to the lead. I do want to just walk through it real quick, and then we'll jump into the lead parts. But just look for that. If you're a premium member, you have access to obviously the tablature and that separate video that goes through all the strumming in detail. So this is in the key of G, and it starts off with a little walk up. And the gist of this rhythm part is you're playing the bass notes. So I want you to listen for this note, which is your bass G string. Here how it comes in on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It's coming in on the 1 and the 3. And then we walk up to the A. So what you're doing is you're creating a rhythm, obviously, but you're also filling in that bass part. And that's what I cover in that other video. And so what I'm doing with the left hand, I'm just walking up the open 6th string, 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. So that puts us in position to play a G chord. Now I'm just playing a G bar chord. Now some of you would say, why do you do that? I know how to make a G like this. Why wouldn't I just do that? Well, the reason you don't do that is you get all these open strings. So you get jangly, and it doesn't work for this kind of feel. See how much more control I have? You can't do that when you've got open strings. Or you can, but it's a lot more difficult. So that's why. And that's why it's always good to learn your chords in different positions of the neck, so that as you start to become a rhythm player, you have muted strums, and then you can let notes ring out, and you have control. You really create a percussive element when you do that. Okay, but here's what it sounds like slowly. Now we're going to go down, down, 2 down strokes, and then up to the A chord. Same chord shape, we're just up now barring the 5th fret. Then I take my pinky, and I come up here to the 7th fret 2nd string and play. Isn't that cool? What that's doing is it's changing you from an A to an A13. I keep everything else the same. I just move my pinky. But by putting my pinky and then taking it off, it allows you to go from an A13 to an A7 chord with the pinky off. It's just a nice little variation of that chord with minimal effort. So remember that as a takeaway as you're playing rhythm guitar. If you're wanting to, do something a little different, and instead of just playing an A chord, you can do that kind of thing. Okay, and then we go down to the D7 chord. Now you'll notice something different about this chord. When we're in this position, listen to the bass now. Now it sounds more like a traditional bass. You're covering 2 strings now. Now this is a great technique. This is a takeaway, and I mentioned this in the other video, but even if you learn nothing else in this lesson, learn this, because you'll use it all the time. The chord shape that I'm playing here, I always think of it as a C. If you know how to make a C chord, you add your pinky here, 4th string on the 3rd fret. Well, that's a C7 chord, right? We can take that same chord shape and slide it up 2 frets. Now you got a D7. And you can slide it up anywhere, and you've got a 7 chord. So what you do is you take your ring finger and you go from the 5th string to the 6th string, back and forth. Keep all the other fingers. Look at that. What that allows you to do then, and it's easy to do. This is not hard, but it sounds really cool. So now if you're wanting to play like a 1-4-5 blues, let's say we were doing it in the key of D, you can go play your 4 chord. So you can start to sound, like a bass player, like you've got a bass player in there. Okay, so for the D7 part, the way that I played that, that's it. I'll do it slowly. Okay, and then we go back to the G. So it's a G chord. Now I'm making it now. I'm not using the bar. I'm just playing. It's like the same as an F chord, but I'm playing it like this. So I'm barring the first 2 strings there on the 3rd fret. That way I'm not hitting the low G note, but I don't need it. So I do it down, and then just a muted strum, and then I come up here and go. That's a down up. This is a G chord as well. It's a little G triad, and I'm using the D chord shape. So now you got the G. And then you're re-emphasizing the G. Down, up, and then another mute. Down, up, mute. Down, up, mute. Or down, up, down. Okay? And then I go back to the D7. This is the turnaround. And the way that I played this was actually started it with a muted strum. Like that. Now I'm playing the D7 chord. 2 downstrokes, and then I take my pinky and I just collapse it so that I'm barring the first 3 strings there on the 5th fret, leaving all the other fingers. And what that does is you're playing a D9 chord. It's just it's a convenient way. It's another example of a minor little change that can give your chord a different variation. Now you take all of these pieces that you've just learned with these different variations, whether it be making the 13 chord or the bass note, or now going from a D7 to a D9, you've really started to enhance your playing just with that little bit of knowledge, and it's, like I said, it's minimal effort. Okay. Okay, now after that, that ends the intro part, the rhythm. Let me play through that one time, and then we'll jump into the lead part. All right, so then I got into the lead part, and so there's 3 chords in this. I should have talked about this in the beginning. This is in the verse. There's a G chord, an A chord, and a D7 chord, and we're going to go back and forth between those. The structure, this would be a 1, 2, would be like a major 2, and then a 5 chord, and back to the 1, and that's kind of what the verse looks like. So every time I go into the section, like the G section, I hit the chord. Just to let your ear know where that is. And then when I go to the D part and so forth and so on. So that just kind of defines it a little bit. So I start with this downstroke, just hitting the G chord, playing it just the way I showed you. And then I played, let's get that. So it's after we hit that, we're going to be playing the 3rd fret there, 1st string, 5th fret, 2nd string, back to the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. Keeping that finger down, I'm going to take my ring finger, go to the 5th fret, 3rd string, back to the 2nd fret, 3rd string, and then that, and that's 3rd fret, 4th fret on the 3rd string. Let's just look at that now. Now what you've done is you're dancing around that chord shape there. So think about these notes and how they relate to this chord so that you can take these licks and apply them to other things. There it is in an A, here it is in a B. So when you're playing lead now and you're playing over a chord, just still file that away as you learn this stuff. And it relates to the, you're playing somewhere between the major and the minor pentatonic scale at this point. You're going back and forth between those two scales for G. And we're going to be changing the scales to match the chords in this. Okay, so the next thing that I play goes like this. So that, we have a ring finger on the 5th fret, 4th string. Middle finger goes down to the 4th fret, 3rd string. And then I come up here to the 2nd fret, 1st string. Now that's an interesting choice of note because really what you're playing is this would be the arpeggio from a G major 7 chord, which is a jazzier sounding chord. So just by hitting that note, it changes the feel. And so just remember that. Remember where it is in relation to this. Now I could have went, but that sounded too kind of obvious, too predictable, but that's got a different feel. You get that major 7 feel. Look at that. If you want to play that arpeggio, look how easy that is. They're just stair step. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks, you know, each one on the consecutive fret and up a string. So then I come down to the 5th fret, 2nd string. Okay, and then I did this. I came up to the A chord. Now, when I made this, I've got my middle finger on the 4th fret, 3rd string. My ring finger's on the 5th fret, 4th string. But look at those are just 2 notes out of the G chord. I just pulled 2 notes out of the chord. So hopefully you can start to see these chords as you're learning these licks. Okay, then I came up a fret and up a fret. So now we're in position for the A, all the A licks, right? Okay, now once I'm up here, then I played, and this is kind of a Hendrix thing, but I came to the 5th fret, 2nd string, and I barred the first 2 strings there on the 5th fret. And then I did this hammer on. So I'm hammering on from the 5th fret to the 7th fret on the 2nd string. That's a great takeaway. Look at how that lick relates to this chord. So let's apply it to a C chord. It's country. It's also Hendrix. It's got a little wing in it, you know. So after I did that, my ring finger goes down to the 7th fret, 3rd string, and then so I keep the bar there. 7th fret, 3rd string, 5th fret, 2nd string, and then I did this. Really cool. Love that. That's another takeaway. But it's the 5th fret, 3rd string. We're hammering onto the 6th fret, 3rd string. Ring finger goes down the 7th fret, 4th string. There's the 6th fret, and there's the 5th fret on the 4th string. Now that's doing a little chromatic walk from here to here. So you think of the minor pentatonic scale for A. It's just like a little bridge note to connect those two. So anytime you got two notes, you can always play the notes in between to get a more of a chromatic feel. And that's what a lot of jazz is kind of filling in the blanks. All right, let's back up and take it from... Okay, now we're ready for the D7. And then I just play, hit the whole chord, and it just so happens that my my index finger is on the 3rd fret 2nd string, playing this note, and in my brain I thought, wait a minute, D chord, oh yeah, I've got pattern 4 of the D major pentatonic right here. This would be pattern 1 up here. But so pattern 4 would be here. For D, the D major pentatonic scale. So when I hit that D chord and I saw that note there, how perfect. Now I got a little lick that I can play. And that's what that is. So that's playing a major lick. It sounds a little more happy. It's not so bluesy. If you did the bluesy version, it'd be... But that sounds kind of country. So what I'm doing is I'm playing the chord, and then I'm just going down, up on the 3rd fret 2nd string. Actually, it starts with an upstroke. And that's the 5th fret 2nd string. Take it off, back to the 3rd fret. And then my pinky plays the 5th fret 1st string. My ring finger comes down to the 5th fret 2nd string, and I do a bend to release. And then back to the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. So, just remember when you're playing this series of notes right here, you start it with the upstroke. And then I did a little hammer on 3rd fret to the 5th fret. And now we're back to the G chord, and I went. So it's just a G chord, and then I'm borrowing the first 2 strings there on the 3rd fret. Played string 1, then 5th fret 2nd string, 3rd fret 2nd string, and then we repeat that. Back to the 1, and then back to the 5th fret 2nd string. So, and then I came down and played the D7 chord again for the turnaround, and just went. Played the chord, slid down 1, and came back up. Very simple. And that's as far as we're going to get in part 1. So in part 2, we've got a whole other bit, and I think the coolest part is actually this little run that happens at the in the second part. And then after that, we go into the C. There's some diminished stuff. Just a lot of content in this, and I think your takeaway will, or I want your takeaway to be understanding how the notes come from, where the notes come from, so that you can put this together. But then having a composition that you can play, having something that you can, like a little goal to work towards. All right, so let me back up and play through everything that we learned in this part 1 video, and then that will end this one. All right, we'll see you in part 2.